So you're asking how you can identify and eliminate like non-converting keywords, and also when we choose to negate certain keywords, and if we had specific thresholds that we look at. And honestly, I could have just replied to this email and say like, anything blanket approach, anything with 8 clicks, 15 clicks, 20 clicks and no orders. We just, those are our thresholds, and those are typically good thresholds that we use. General benchmarks, if you want very general, very broad benchmarks, would be at 8 clicks and no orders. We typically start optimizing the bids. At 15 clicks and no orders, we will be more aggressive with our optimizations of the bids. And roughly about 20 to 25 clicks and no orders, we will be very aggressive with our optimizations for the bids. And if you wanted a good blanket rule approach, you could say anything with 20 to 25 clicks or more, and no orders would be something to at least look into negating. Those are my blanket rules. And I could have just replied with an email response. But the reason why is because, as you said, negating keywords is tricky, and we can be better than blanket approaches. And I wanted to give you much better advice than a generic answer and give you some more context. You are 100% correct in that negating keywords means that you're never going to appear on those search pages again. So there is a little bit of fear. I just got off a consulting call today, and there was a question about, is there a problem if we're negating these keywords? Because right now the context is they're dealing with significant inefficiencies of ad spend in their account, and it needs to be gotten under control fast. It should have been taken care of a week ago. We're not the ones working on the account. And so it is what it is, but I was definitely able to give them some pointers there. And my advice was, well, given the current context of the account and what needs to happen, you need to be negating things, even if they're relevant to the product. So I wanted to kind of give you that context because it actually has more to do with the current account performance and your goals and objectives for your business. That actually plays into ad strategy. And that's something that we really, really try and focus on, is not just looking at what is our blanket approaches, but how can we holistically hone in on, the business, the brand, what needs to happen. So what I will say is it depends on how aggressive you need to be in optimizing ad spend in the current moment. Classic example, this other account, right? Ad spend started to significantly increase about 2 weeks ago. And it's climbing, and what really needs to happen for the account is we need to weed out any and all efficiencies. If you are going into an off season, this is very classic if you have highly giftable products in Q4, and then as immediately as sort of the shopper and consumer behavior changes post Christmas, you are going to see an immediate nosedive in conversion rates, and all of the search terms that previously converted are no longer converting. That is a time where you need to immediately and aggressively lean out ad waste. Another classic example would be maybe a product is going out of stock. And due to those stocking issues, you're seeing a decrease in performance because maybe ship times aren't as great across the entire nation. And also contextually, that product is probably going to be out for a couple months. And so we probably need to get very aggressive with our optimization cycles. And so what I would say is how aggressively you need to be able to lower ad spend. One of the first places you should be looking to lower your ad spend is on the things that are not creating any impact on sales, meaning they have clicks and they do not have sales. And this is on a search term level, which that's where negative keywords come into play. And this can also be on a keyword level, which is where the bid optimizations come into play. So again, if we need to get our ad spend under control ASAP, we're essentially pruning all of the things that are not working. And again, most of those prunings you should start at the bottom with the things that are working the least and then work your way up. Oftentimes, sort of the knee-jerk response is to go in and say, where is the majority of ad spend on my account? And while that's true, and you should be looking for the biggest pieces of the pie, oftentimes that ad spend, well, it could be more efficient, meaning a cost could be a little bit lower, but it is generating sales for us. So there is some return happening. When you go to aggressively cut spend, especially if you're wanting to be careful in your aggressive cuts and not have as big of an impact on your sales volume and not like completely make sales go into a death spiral, that's where you want to look at the bottom tier of performance, i.e. the stuff that's like not even converting at all. So that would be the more aggressive approach. Now, the more nuanced approach, and I think the one that you're being cognizant of or questioning, and I would 100% be with you there, is okay, so I'm kind of okay with my performance in terms of ACoS, in terms of total ACoS, and I'm looking at these search terms that are underperforming, but I'm noting that they're really relevant to my product. It makes sense for me to convert on these search pages. I'm not really sure why that's happening. And should I negate those? Or I'm worried if I negate these that I'm going to cause issues with, sort of where my product is going to appear on Amazon. And is that going to come back to bite me? Am I getting rid of some good stuff? So I would say as long as you have a high enough volume of clicks to be confident that that is a search term that does not perform well for the product. And this you can actually benchmark. Again, if you want to get sophisticated with it, you can actually benchmark it against your product's conversion rates, which you take 1 divided by your product conversion rates, which, let's just do 10 for ease sake, right? 1 divided by 0.10, so percentage in a decimal form is going to be 10. So on average, it takes you 10 clicks to be able to convert into an order. So I know that over 10 clicks, again, if I'm looking at my averages, I should be relatively confident that I haven't at least reached 1 conversion. So the conversion rate on that keyword or maybe potentially on that search term is going to be very low. You might want to give it, 11 clicks, 12 clicks, just to give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's a little bit of an outlier, but I know if I got 20 clicks, my expected conversion rate on 20, like I would expect to at least have converted once off of 20 clicks. And so that's where looking at, how much data do I have to make the decision when they talk about making databases or data-driven decisions, essentially what they're talking about is doing it that way. So I'm going to wrap it up. Benchmark, what I would say is if you have a bid optimization system that allows you to set specific product level parameters, which is something that we do, is you want to also look at your average conversion rate and then benchmark that against how many clicks you're taking to make a decision. So for example, if I have a 10% conversion rate, I wouldn't want to make a decision at 5 clicks, because if I'm making a decision at 5 clicks, I'm assuming a 20% conversion rate, which is double my actual conversion rate. And so I would probably want to wait till 10 clicks to be able to, again, if you immediately reach that click threshold, I would drop the bids slightly, right? Okay, so I've reached my conversion rate threshold of clicks. I want to bring the bids down. And when I say bring the bids down slightly, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can either drop your bid by like 5 cents or so, or you can benchmark it off of your cost per click and either drop it to or slightly below your cost per click. Now, if you reach a higher volume of clicks, so again, we're going after that 10 click benchmark, average 10% conversion rate. I'm going to say, okay, at 15 clicks, that's going to be a significantly low conversion rate. And so after 15 more clicks, I'm going to say, well, I really don't think this is working. It doesn't make sense for me to continuously invest in this keyword. And so I would benchmark the bid adjustments relatively like 20% below the cost per click. And then if I get upwards of 25 clicks, 30 clicks, I'm like, this is well outside the realm of anything that's still not converting. What we will often do is set a aggressively low bid of potentially, I think somewhere around 10 to 17 cents, something like that. Effectively, that is pausing the keyword. Pausing the keyword out is this pretty much taking us out of the ad auction. And so we're expecting low to no impressions on this, but we've already kind of benchmarked that the keyword doesn't really work for us. So it allows us to keep it still active potentially getting some very low cost traffic while not significantly investing it into it. And so that's the way that we would go about it that way. Same thing with negative keywords. Now, negative keywords, you can't like half add a negative keyword. You got to add it or you don't. So what we will do is we will aggressively negate if we deem that it's highly irrelevant to the product. So a good example of this would be in maybe drinkware. Maybe you have a lot of glass drink keywords, but your product is not glass, and you notice that those don't convert well. So you might, aggressively negate those search terms as you find them in your account. And then we will typically, again, because negating is very aggressive, we would probably go up to in the case of like a 10% conversion rate, we would probably go up to like 20 clicks, because then we're expecting like, about half our regular conversion rate would be a good benchmark. And then again, why it's helpful here to benchmark it against your conversion rate is you will find that in clothing products, some home goods potentially, not all home goods. I'm trying to think. Sometimes in like off-season giftable products, your conversion rates can be like 5, especially in clothing. I'm thinking a lot in clothing. Your conversion rates could be like 2 to 5%, just really low. And so with that, like a 2% conversion rate is 50 clicks and no sales, which can get expensive, and that goes into the whole like making sure you're testing, and the amount you're testing is something that you can afford given what your conversion rates are, all that stuff. I won't butcher you with those details, but that's how I would go about it. And then if you really want to, again, you can use those benchmarks. So 8 clicks into orders, lower it. 15 clicks, lower it slightly. 25 to 30 clicks. That's if you're looking at average conversion rates. If your conversion rates are much lower, you want to give things more leeway. And again, if you're being more sophisticated with it, then you would definitely want to benchmark it against your product level conversion rates. So that video was in response to a follow-up question I got on one of our newsletters that we sent out, which is the top 3 Amazon PPC fails and also how to fix them. So if you weren't aware, I'm actually sending out a newsletter every single Tuesday that is actionable, tactical, nitty-gritty, straight to the point. And oftentimes I'll get these follow-up questions on the information I put out, which I always reply to those and give people as much advice as I possibly can. So if you're interested in joining the newsletter, I definitely recommend you check out the link in the description.